Good morning. Glad you guys are here. My name is Dr.Grat, Correll. I'm a physician here in town. I'm also a community assistant professor for Correll College of Medicine, and I'm a member here at the church. And I want to welcome you guys to Celebration Church's Incurrent service. John asked me to fill in. He's out of the office. I guess he's a pastor, so he's out of the pulpit. Actually, he doesn't use a pulpit, he uses a sheet music stand. So he's actually out of the sheet music stand. He's out of town, and so he asked me to fill in today for him. And it's my pleasure to do so, and I hope you guys enjoy the message that I've got for you. So today, the title of my message is Just Right. Just Right. Now, you probably are all familiar with the childhood story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Remember that? The little girl who, she went out for a walk in the woods, and she comes upon the bear's house, and they're off doing their thing, and she goes in their house and starts looking around, and there's the 3 bowls of porridge, and the first one, ooh, it's too hot, and the second one, oh, it's too cold. And then you probably know the catchphrase to the story. You can say it with me. She found the 3rd bowl of porridge, and it was just right. Well, you probably know that story, but you probably don't know that there is an astronomical phenomena that astronomers, particularly those that study our universe and our solar systems placed within that universe, that they have dubbed the Goldilocks effect. And it's a way of describing the statistical improbability that life occurred here on this planet by accident, because there were so many things that had to be just right in order for that to occur. Let me see if I can explain to you what I mean. Now, if you go to college and you take an astronomy class, invariably some professor will tell you that our Earth is cosmologically insignificant. They will say that our planet is just a little blob of rock. It's a random traveler hitchhiking along a mediocre star, that we are just the accidental byproducts of the universe, and that we're spinning around in this galaxy itself, spinning around a giant black hole until one day an asteroid the size of Delaware takes us out and ends all of life here on this Earth. And that was it. We were just an accident. And that may be true, but I want you to consider another explanation. You see, in order for life to occur on this planet, we had to be the exact right distance from the sun. The circumstellar habitable zone, the zone within which a planet must reside, the distance from its neighboring sun, had to be exactly so. Any closer, it would boil all the water on the planet, any further away, and we would be one giant popsicle. And of course, you get to experience this every year as the seasons change and we go from summer to winter. You see, the Earth doesn't travel around the sun in a perfectly circular pattern. There is just a little bit of an oval nature to it. And so the difference between the perihelion, the time when it's the closest to the sun, and the aphelion, the time when it's the furthest away from the sun, is a variance of only about a 3% difference. And yet that produces 100-degree temperature differences between the year. Had that distance been 4%, life on this Earth would have been incompatible. So we were the exact right distance from the sun. Not only that, we circle the exact right kind of sun that we need. You see, our sun comprises 99.86% of all of the mass in our solar system. It's the exact right size. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's sort of like the Goldilocks story. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. You probably didn't think about the sun today when you came to church this morning, but the sun is a giant thermonuclear bomb that has been exploding for eons and eons, and every single second it converts 5 million tons of mass to energy. And because of our exact positioning from it in the solar system, we receive about 1 billionth of its energy, which translates into 1 trillion photons in every pinhead-sized piece of real estate on this planet, which happens to be the exact number that we need to sustain life. The precision of the size of the sun impressed physicists Jane Jean so much that he said whomever the architect of the universe was, he had to be a mathematician to get it just right. Not only do we circle the right kind of sun, we are encircled by the right kind of moon. See, if the moon didn't exist, we wouldn't either. Think about Olympic figure skaters and when they do their couples skating. There's one who stands in the center, there's the other skater who skates around holding on to him, and it's because of the female figure skater who's on the outside that she stabilizes the spin of the male figure skater who's standing in the center, provides stability in a similar fashion. The moon stabilizes the axis of the spin of the Earth. If it weren't for the moon, Jupiter's gravitational influence on our planet would cause us to tilt up to 85 degrees, cause our planet to spin 3 times faster than it does, and you would have continuous gale force winds at all times, extinguishing all life on this Earth. The moon is more than just something pretty to look at in the sky. It is the thing that keeps us in the right orbit. Not only are we encircled by the right kind of moon, we have the right kind of crust. You see, the Earth's crust is exactly the thickness that it needs to be to allow it to cool on the top, but to still be able to break into large sections we call plates so that it can float about in a giant ocean of molten lava, so that when those plates come together, they collide into one another. Mountains are formed, valleys are forged, and the Earth separates from the ocean. And zones of biodiversity are created, and there's stability of temperature and climate, and life is possible. If the Earth's crust had been any thicker, there would be no movement. We would be one giant planet filled with an ocean and no land. If it was any thinner, it would be one giant volcano and life would be extinguished. And as far as we know, we're the only planet in the solar system, probably the only planet in the universe that exhibits this kind of plate tectonics. The Earth also has a right magnetic field. See, our planet's got 3 tricks up its sleeve. Number 1, the plate tectonics we just talked about. 2, it's got a conducting core of iron nickel. And number 3, we have a very rapid spinning rate of just under 24 hours. And those 3 things create a field of electromagnetism that shield our planet from dangerous cosmic rays and otherwise evaporate and extinguish all life on this planet. It's sort of like a science fiction film where you get to put up the force field around the planet. If you've ever had the fortune of looking at the aurora borealis, you've seen that effect as those cosmic rays bounce off our magnetic field, magnetic charged particles that would otherwise have wiped out all life on this Earth. Our planet exists in just the right solar system. You see, our solar system is a very specific design. It's got an inner core of smaller planets and a larger core of outer planets. And those outer planets are huge. Saturn, for instance, is 95 times the mass of Earth. Jupiter, we're learning a lot about Jupiter this month since the Juno space probe is now there. Jupiter is 317 times the mass of Earth. And these large outer planets protect us from life-extinguishing events, comets and asteroids and those kinds of things. Think of them as being offensive linemen that are protecting the Earth from getting sapped by these events. This was demonstrated a couple decades ago when comet Shoemaker Levy 9 impacted into Jupiter. And it landed on Earth. The consequences would have been devastating. You see, there are a lot of things that had to be just right in this universe. In order for life to be exist on this planet, we had to have the exact number of stars that we do. We had to have the right number of spatial dimensions. We had to have the right amount of nuclear forces, the right amount of strong nuclear forces, the right amount of electromagnetic forces, the right amount of gravitational forces, and the ratio of those forces had to be just what they are. The mass of neutrons, the ratio of those neutrons and electrons. And just because these things are so precise, it doesn't mean that there is any scientific reason why these things are so precise. Let me give you an example. Carbon. All life is carbon-based. It's so commonplace you don't even give it a second thought. I doubt over breakfast this morning you were thinking about carbon, but carbon is a miracle. It's in order for carbon to exist, helium and beryllium have to bond, and the half-life of beryllium is so incredibly short, 10 to the negative 16 seconds, that mathematically speaking, there isn't enough time for those two chemicals to form so that carbon can be made. English astronomer Fred Hoyle said this: it's almost as if somebody rigged the physics. Mathematically, we should not be here, but we are. Statistically speaking, carbon is a fluke. There should be no life, but there is. And so now the question is, did this all happen by accident? So why are we here? Geologist Peter Ward and astronomer Donald Brownlee, both from the University of Washington, looked at the odds of all of the life on Earth happening by accident. And this is what they said. They concluded that the fortuitous assemblage of correct elements, the random chance that this was all put together, occurred in nearly irreproducible circumstances. They said it seems that the Earth got it just right. And they said the statistical improbability of this happening is so remote that more than likely, no matter how much we look at the cosmos, we will never find another planet that has a life on it. The math suggests that we are unique in unexplainable defiance of what should have been. Even though our experts and our scientists can tell us how our planet got it right, they have no scientific reason why everything is just right. The chances of the universe, that the universe should be life-permitting, are so infinitesimal as to be incomprehensible and incalculable, said philosopher William Craig Lane. There is no physical reason why these constants and quantities should possess the values they do. And if any one of these quantities were just slightly altered, the balance would be destroyed and life would not exist. You see, secular scientists teach that the cosmos are here by accident. That one day nothingness created everything, which, if you think about it, is not even rational. The very definition of nothingness excludes everything. But they said nothingness all of a sudden had a seizure one day. And then out popped the universe, and over a long period of time, eventually we came about. And if you had to write it out in a mathematical equation, you would put slime plus time equals mankind. The problem is the math doesn't add up. It's almost as if a variable was missing. You remember in your high school or college classes, you went through calculus, and you're doing the formula, and you know there's a variable missing because the numbers don't add up. What if you added God into the equation? You see, if you take God out of the equation, the Goldilocks effect is an effect that has no cause. It's an end result with no start. Scientifically speaking, that is an untenable position. It makes no sense. But if you put God into the equation, it all makes sense. It's almost as if He is the variable in the mathematical equation that makes all the numbers add up. If there is a design to the universe, there must have been a designer. And if there is a designer who has created this universe, then maybe the real question is, what were we designed for? Why are we here? See, there's a lot of things in life you're not going to be guaranteed to get. But you will be guaranteed to get three things. Number one, death. Number two, taxes. And number three, people doing stupid things. And if you don't believe the latter, let me remind you of who the relatives are. People do stupid things. I mean, think about it. We smoke, even though it says on the package, this is going to cause cancer, it's going to kill you. But we do it nonetheless. As teenagers, we ignore our parents. We think that they're the most ignorant people in the world, even though they've lived 3 times longer than we have. They've been through the school of hard knocks, and they have a diploma from it. And if we learn from them, we can prevent a lot of our own pain and suffering. We drive as if those caution signs don't really mean anything to us. Oh, those are for those people that really can't drive very well. That speed limit sign, that's not for me because I'm a good guy. We even drink hot sauce That's called 100% pure pain. I mean, it doesn't speak very well of the human species, does it? I mean, we are here supposedly because of survival of the fittest, because of our superior brains. We have been able to survive all of these insults that the universe has thrown at us. And for an evolved species, we don't act very evolved, do we? We tend to do a lot of stupid things. And maybe one of the stupidest things that we could do as a species is conclude that there is no God. Knowing the little that we know of this universe, thinking that we're here all by ourselves, that all of this was just one giant big accident, and it'll all end one day in a giant cosmic farce. Everything will burn out. That there's no meaning or purpose to your life, and maybe even worse is that you never ask yourself, why? Why am I here? You see, most people are going to go to the grave never having run that question through their brain. They're going to live their lives as if the purpose of being here on this planet for 70 or 80 years is to get as much self-gratification and as much self-centeredness as possible, as they spend their years stuffing their lives with as many things as they possibly can. They never stop to think about the fact that they were created for a reason. They're created to have a relationship with their designer, with their creator. They're so focused on the here and now that they're not worried. They haven't even thought about the hereafter. And there's going to come a day when they're going to be really surprised. Are they in for a shock when they die? Because you see, a day is coming. A day is coming when all of us is going to have to stand before the judgment throne of God. We're going to have to answer for the sins of our lives, and most importantly, why we spent our days ignoring the Lord and His will for our lives. George Barna, who's probably the country's premier researcher on church, culture, and Christianity, he did a research study and surveyed Americans, and he said to them, asked them this one very simple question: if you died today, would you go to hell? Less than 1/2 of 1% of people in this survey said yes. That means that over 99.5+% of our country does not believe either in the existence of hell or that they've done anything to deserve hell. Those numbers don't add up to what Matthew tells us, does it? Matthew says that there's coming a day when we're going to stand before the Lord, and unfortunately not many of us will be able to do that, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. I guess most people think that they're just going to be just right with God on that day. They never give it a second thought. But then again, people do stupid things. It seems as this God that we've been singing about for the last half an hour is the God of just right, isn't it? He's not only the God who's able to create a planet that was just right so that we could live on it, but He was also the God who figured out how to make us just right with Him. It says in Romans, you see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Now, very rarely somebody will die for a righteous man, and occasionally somebody may die for a good man, but you've got to understand that God died for us while we were sinners. How He demonstrated His love for us, that while we were in the depths of our sin, Christ died for us. In 2 Corinthians it says this, for God says, at just the right time I heard you. In the day of salvation I helped you. Indeed, the right time is right now. Today is the day of salvation. When we stand before the Lord on the judgment day, there will be no excuses. It says in Romans that since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen. You see that play of words? His invisible qualities are clearly seen, understood from what has been, so that people will be without excuse. I mean, which one of you has not, on a clear night, looked up into the heavens, seen those millions and millions of stars, and sort of wondered what is out there? What is looking back at me? Am I here just by accident, or am I a creation of a loving and caring God? Einstein, who's arguably one of the most intelligent people in all of human history, said that the driving motivation for him to study astronomy was looking through that telescope and giving a cosmic religious feeling almost as if he was looking out into the heavens, and that on the other end of the telescope was God looking back at him, and it stirred his soul. And sort of a funny historical turn of events after he died, the Hubble telescope captured this picture. This is NGC 7293, called the Helix Nebula, or the Eye of God Nebula. The Hubble telescope pointed its lens into the cosmos. This is what they saw back, almost as if God was looking back at us. But what do you think God sees when he looks at us? Well, I imagine he would look at a world that he made just right. We messed it up anyway. He probably looks at a people who prefer to remain ignorant to his pleas, to find forgiveness of their sins, rather than making things just right with him. And I imagine he looks at the clock winding down, and he realizes that time is running out for us to get it just right. So the story of Goldilocks ends with this. She's a victim of her own complacency. Remember the story? She falls asleep in the bed until the bears come home and they rouse her out of her sleep. She's startled awake, she runs away, and she's never heard from again. And that's how the story of humanity is going to end. We're going to be buzzing along in our metaphysical stupor until one day God rouses us out of our complacency, startled by God's reality. And then when that happens, it's going to be too late for most of us to get it just right. So I encourage you today. Don't do stupid things. Do yourself a favor and don't get caught on the wrong side of eternity. Now, there's probably two groups of people here today. Some of you who are saying, what is he talking about? Salvation and getting it right and the judgment of God. And if you're one of those folks that answered that question, I don't know what would happen to me if I died today. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. After the service is over, come on down. Talk with me or one of the folks who's on the stage. Just reach out to the person next to you and say, what is that all about? That Christian thing. I mean, I thought being a Christian was just going to church and doing your thing for an hour and dressing in a particular way. And we'd love to introduce you to Jesus. We'd like you to know who he is and what he's done for you and how he can change and transform your life. Now, for those of you who have already known the day of salvation, those of you who have already understood the saving work of Christ in your life, let me encourage you. There's going to come another day, a day when you're going to stand before the Lord, and because of what Christ has done for you on the cross, you're going to be taken into heaven. But the Lord's going to ask you a second question. He's going to say, what did you do at the time that I gave you? What are you going to say? Well, I played Pokemon Go. I got like 4 different little characters all in 5 minutes. And the Lord's going to say, did I create you to play video games? Some of you may say, well, I became a Christian. And then I retreated from the world and I spent all my time in church and just hung out with church people. And the Lord's going to say, did I call you to get withdrawn into the holy huddle, into a spiritual bubble when there's a world out there that's dying that doesn't understand this message? Think about how you're going to choose your way. Let's call you God, I thank you for what you've done. It's like that story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You did everything just right. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. Everything about this earth is just right. One big metaphor. One big picture for us. And you can make everything just right in our own lives. A lot of us think that we don't deserve your judgment, but boy, will we be surprised on that day. A lot of us think that you're not out there. Let me shop. God, I pray that our eyes would be open. We would realize and see that you have made a way for everything to be just right with you. And I pray, God, for those of us that have received that and know that life-changing effect, that we would remember that the world out there, most of the world, doesn't know that story. And without them knowing that story, without us being there, they don't face a good future in eternity. We thank you, God, for what you've done today. Thank you for the opportunity to praise and to sing. Thank you for the time to be challenged. We pray, Lord, that you will bless us as we go today. We thank you for doing everything just right. Thank you in the name of